All right. Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Hope you can all hear me loud and clear. Hope you're well. Good to see lots of familiar names streaming into the Zoom meeting. Karibuni sana. I see Brand there, Claire, Emmanuel, Kevin, and so many other people streaming in, which is good. Hope you guys are well. Hope that you also had a good time on the chats yesterday, but really glad that you could join us. For the guys who are joining us from the social media platforms, Karibuni sana. Also, make sure that you do like and also subscribe or follow. But also, if you want to interact with us, make sure that you do come into the Zoom meeting. There should be a link in the video descriptions of the various social media platforms that you're using on Telegram or also live. But you can also use the links that are pinned in that group. For the guys on Instagram, you can definitely check out the link on our bio. You should be able to get a link that should direct you here. But really glad that you guys are here. And of course, let's get this show on the road. Today, we're going to start on time. Of course, there weren't any fundamentals that were there, which is good. So ideally, we can definitely end up starting on time. I know most of the time we start a couple of minutes past the hour, but at least today, we will be able to start on time. So for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. So we also do have Mitch. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them, both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will definitely be getting back to you. And of course, remember, you can join us every morning, 9 a.m. in the morning, every Monday to Friday, using the same link that you did use to join us. Of course, that goes out to the guys who are here on Zoom. On the social media platforms, you still can join us. There's no problem with that. So just make sure that you do catch us at that time. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at what we had on the charts yesterday versus today. So you can see Wednesday, the 26th of June, right there, what the watch list was looking like. For those of you that are already here, feel free to take note of what the watch list is going to be looking like today. So you can see the 27th of June, a couple of changes there, but we will be looking at that. So we'll start off by doing a review and a recap of the ones on the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately didn't make it to our watch list this morning. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts at a time like this, price was somewhere within this region. I did point out that it wasn't really the best idea to really look for buying opportunities at that point because you were not really sure how the buyers were going to react. And you can't see that there was a bit of a hold within this region right here during the London session. It was only up until when the market broke to the upside, pulled back in within this region at around 4:30. That's when the market did literally quite take off to the upside. So ideally just needed a bit of patience. You're not too sure whether the sellers were going to react and push the market back in within this region here. But of course, if we did get the buys there, then definitely I hope we did end up managing. In as much as the market looks like it's pulling back in within this region, it's not really a currency pair that we will be watching out for in terms of trades today. You could find that you could easily end up getting stuck on that one because both the Canadian dollar and the Japanese yen are both on the same side. So you could easily find that the market could range. So the next one is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was just approaching this region right here. And you can see that there was a bit of a hold, but at least the market was able to break to the upside. Unfortunately, when the pullback came back in, it's not like the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. The pullback wasn't able to come back in all the way to within this region right here. But nonetheless, you can see that the market did have some sort of an attempt to come back in within this region before the market moved to the upside. But unfortunately for us, for today, not really a currency pair that we'll be watching out for in terms of trades. Maybe could be back on our watch list tomorrow, depending on what happens with the fundamentals. And if we do see a likelihood of the big boys being interested in that currency pair, then we'll possibly try and see whether we can jump in on some trades tomorrow. But for today, unfortunately, not really something that we will be watching out for. So the next one that we do have is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, we're watching out for sells. Unfortunately, the selling opportunities were not quite there on this one. And in fact, most of the euro pairs yesterday, it's like the big boys were just not really interested in actually selling the euros yesterday. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out right here. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. And you can see that the market in the morning, it was somewhere within this region. I did point out that this was not really a good area for you to look for your selling opportunities. You clearly can't see why now. When you end up looking, hindsight, they say hindsight is always 2020. So when you end up looking back, you can definitely see that this was a buyer's region and the market did push to the upside quite aggressively. There was this region right here, but I had pointed out that maybe could have found some sort of a reaction. There was, but not really a massive one. And unfortunately, the area where we're expecting to possibly get, a proper reaction of the sellers, you can clearly see that the sellers were nowhere to be seen. So unfortunately for us on this one, there was no trade. And remember, I had pointed out the market breaks above the red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately there would have been no trade for us. So the next one is the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. The market did push to the downside aggressively. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was down here. I had also pointed out that there was a possibility the market was coming down to within this region, but unfortunately just came shy of that area. We're expecting some sort of a pullback. I did caution guys about looking for selling opportunities when the market was down within this region right here. So once again, like we always say, hindsight is always 2020. You can clearly see why it was a good idea. And chasing is never really good when it comes to trading. And I hope that this serves as a good example of that. So you can see that the market pulled back in. Unfortunately, there wasn't much in terms of sellers within this region. You can see that the market came up a bit higher, but still there wasn't anything much in terms of a reaction. But unfortunately, not really something that we'll be focusing on today, even if the market does end up continuing to move to the downside. If you want to look for selling opportunities, you are at the liberty to do so. But unfortunately for us guys, we definitely always have to have reasons as to why we're taking trades. And since we don't have one, we'll possibly just be better off to look for opportunities elsewhere. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So the next one is the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, more or less something similar with the rest of the euro pairs. We're expecting weakness. The strength came in. There's nothing much you can do about it. But ideally, we were timing the sells. You can see the three regions that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within here. The price did pull back up. The first time you can see that it just came back in within this region right here. And remember, these are the minor SNRs that we always talk about. I know that we point out the major SNRs, but sometimes you can't find the minor SNRs can also end up coming into play. So you can see that the market came to the downside, came back up. Unfortunately, during the US session, the sellers just couldn't get the market coming back in all the way till within here. But also possibly could be something to do with how that buyer stepped up within that region there. You can see that this is some sort of aggression of the buyers, and it's like maybe the sellers were a bit stunned, within that region there. They completely gave up the ball. The market came up higher, but unfortunately, not really something that we'll be watching out for today. So the next one that we do have for review is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region right here at around 9:10. The market broke to the upside, pulled back in. Definitely did need to read this on a smaller time frame. And you can see that off that area, the market pushed itself to the upside, but it's always best to wait for the pullback. You can imagine the guys who were hitting buys when the market was all the way high up within this region right here. I don't think it really had a very good day yesterday. You can see that the market pulled back in. You just needed to wait for the pullback. And you can see that at around 4:30, price was back in within here. Even if you just got this buy, in and out, that's more or less that. Your job as a trader is just to take proper entries and proper exits. It doesn't matter how far or how close, the market does end up going. That ideally should be your job. So ideally for that one, just one buy, but that's it. Today, not really something that we'll be watching out for. So last but not least for review, we do have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, watching out for buying opportunities. You can see in the morning, when you're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region, broke to the upside, went up quite aggressively. Unfortunately, the pullback didn't quite come back in during the London session, but you can see that during the US session, the market came back in and unfortunately couldn't go all the way higher. But even if you did possibly end up getting the buys within here at around 4:30 coming up, then you get into some sort of a mess, like what's happening within this region. ideally, even if you end up scratching your trade at that point in time, you're definitely going to be scratching at some sort of a profit. So this one is okay. Of course, didn't quite make higher highs and higher lows like would have expected. But again, like we always say, there are certain expectations we have about the charts, but the markets will always do what they want to do because they do have a mind of their own and we can't control what they want to do. So the best thing you can do is just make sure that you get those trading opportunities and make sure that you do manage your trades. So we're going to look at a couple of screenshots that we did end up getting yesterday, and much appreciated to all the guys who did actually end up sending in a screenshot. So we will start off with this one from Beatrice. So Beatrice, if you're here, shout out to you. So this is on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So I can see that you got some selling opportunities as the market was coming down. Possibly you read them on the smaller time frame, maybe as the buyers were slowing down within this region, which is okay. Stop losses, I can't see are below your points of entries, which is good. And hopefully did watch out for these regions right here. Definitely seems like some sort of buyers who are possibly getting ready to give you some sort of issues within that area, but that's really well done. So shout out to you, Beatrice, if you're here. So we also did get a screenshot from Christine. So Christine Washara, if you're here, shout out to you as well. So this is on gold. I know that yesterday we were watching out to see whether we could get sells. Good to see that you did get a sell somewhere within here. Unfortunately, the market missed your sell limit somewhere within this region right here. But like I pointed out, the markets do have a mind of their own, but at least you are ready for that in case the market tapped you in within that region. Unfortunately, did not, but good to see that you got this trade when the market did pull back in. Stop loss already below your point of entry, which is good. Can see that you have a level somewhere within there. And hopefully did end up possibly doing some money management, within that area right there. So shout out to you for that, Christine. So we also did get a screenshot from a good friend, Dan Bickett. This is on the euro against the US dollar. I know that yesterday we were watching out for sells, but I can see that you're already in line for the buys. So shout out to you for that, Dan Bickett. So I can see that you got some two good buying opportunities down here, which is good. I can see that the take profits are somewhere within this region, and I think that your stop losses for your trades are already above break even, which is good. So I can also see that various levels that you do have, maybe an area that you're watching out for in terms of money management there, and maybe even somewhere higher, somewhere within that region there, although at that point in time, your take profit would have already been taken. But I think maybe you are keeping in line with the fact that you are looking for sales. That's the reason why you have the red at the top. So maybe this, at that point in time, some sort of a smart counter that you did end up jumping in on, but it's good to see that it was paying off. So shout out to you for that, Dan Bickett. So last but not least, we did get a screenshot from George. So George, if you're here, shout out to you as well. So this is really good. This is on the Great British Pound against Japanese yen. It did give some good buying opportunities, although we were stuck in a range. We will be looking at it because it's still on our watch list today, but good to see that you got the buy when the market pulled back in within this region here, and you did survive this massive week that did end up happening before the market moved to the upside. But it's good to see that you got the buy where the buyers are and stop loss already above your point of entry when the market started to move in your favor. Can see that your take profit is just slightly higher than this area right here. Which is okay, but sometimes you can't get disappointed. You can find that the market could easily end up turning within here. So it's always best to make sure that your take profits, you always put them, especially where the highs are, because you could easily find that the market could come in within here, maybe even miss your take profit, by a pip or two. Maybe you're even excited because at one point in time, your take profit was actually going green and you're thinking that it's a done deal, only to come back later and find the market back in within here. So just make sure that you do have that in mind. But this is some really good trading. So shout out to you for that, George. So shout out to Beatrice, Christine, Dan Bickett, George, for sending in those screenshots. Us guys are more than happy to see what you guys are up to on the charts. Remember, guys, you can't send in your screenshots. Your trades don't really need to be the best. It's not a competition, maybe just not of yet. Maybe we could possibly try and see whether we could bring some sort of a competition in, but ideally just embrace where you are, even if the trades are not really the best. That's the reason why we're here, so that we can give you guys value. We point out something wrong with maybe what we've seen in terms of how you're taking your entries. That can also go along in terms of helping so many other people, who are watching here, because ideally, one problem cuts across so many people. You'll realize that you're not the only one with a problem. So feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. You can send them in to us via WhatsApp, via our official Afriforex line. Us guys would be more than happy to give you a shout out. So we're going to jump into matters today. So hopefully you guys have taken note of what the watch list is going to be looking like. You can see a couple of changes here and there, mostly on the currency pairs. So we will start off with the New Zealand dollar pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. Then the Australian dollar pairs, mix and match them up with everything on the sell, the Great British Pound and the Euro. Do the same. For the guys who are new, we don't mix and match up things on the same side, like the New Zealand dollar and the Australian dollar, or the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc. Reason being, you could find that those are currency pairs that might not have a clear direction. Remember, when you're trading, you want something that's moving, something that's going to be giving you a clear direction. You don't want something that's going to, get you stuck between two levels. That can be frustrating. And also in terms of your profit potential, I mean, you definitely want something that's going to be moving in one direction. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar pairs. So the first one is going to be the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out, and more or less the same three areas that we're going to be watching out for today. So in the morning yesterday, when we're looking at the charts at around 9:10, you can see that the market was somewhere within here. I did point out caution in terms of looking for your buying opportunities. When the market is high up within here, this is a seller's region. Clearly can see that the market was in a range. Just needed to be patient, and you can see that the market came back in within here, bounced off that area, came up, possibly did need to do some money management. You can see that also once again during the US session at exactly 4:30, the market was back in within here. You just needed to look for the buys at the bottom of the range to come back up till the top of the range. So right now, since the market structure is still in some sort of a range, the best areas for you to actually look for your buying opportunities are definitely at the bottom of the range. So right now, don't look for buying opportunities. Wait and see if we can't get the market reacting back in within this region right here. If it does that, could look for the buys there. If not, if we do get the market breaking above this region to the upside, and we get the market pulling back in, within this region right here, and it holds above, maybe you could even find that the market could attempt to break to the downside, maybe attempting to get back into the range. If that ends up not working out very well for the sellers and the market holds above, at that point in time, you could ideally end up looking for your buying opportunities right there. So you need to wait and get a confirmation of the breach of structure before you actually look for buying opportunities at the top. So you can imagine, like, even guys who are looking for buys, when the market was high up within here without any confirmation, you can imagine those guys ended up in the gutter. So you don't want to end up being like those guys. Make sure that you do wait and see, get a clear confirmation that the market has broken the structure. Then you could look for the buying opportunities. Now, in case the sellers do end up reacting and the market does come back in within this region here, and this price is not good enough for the buyers and they need a much better price, we will be waiting to see whether the market could also come back in within here. And that's the reason why we also do have this region. So also make sure that you do keep an eye out for this particular region. If it breaks beneath that region to the downside and holds below it, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us unless the market comes back up to the upside of that red scenario. So the next one is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, we're watching out for buys. Yesterday, you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts at around this time yesterday, price was within this region. I did point out caution in terms of looking for the buys. We're in some sort of a seller's region. We're expecting either the market to break above here to the upside and we get that confirmation. You can see that the sellers pushed the market down, the buyers pushed it up, but unfortunately, the buyers just couldn't sustain the price above here. And you can see that when the market came back in, the sellers really had a field day. Unfortunately, we couldn't get anything there, but you can see that the market really slowed down within this particular region right here. Gave a couple of really small buys, but nothing significant. But you can see that today, during the Asian session, that's when the market is really trying to push itself off this region right here. Really do hope and wish that it did end up doing that yesterday. But remember, you don't really need to chase, because the markets can end up resetting themselves and you will get another opportunity. So don't look for the buying opportunities now. You can't know if the market could easily end up reacting off this region. Consider the market is also getting into some sort of a range within here. So you could hit the buys there, and the next thing you could find price back in within here. And you'll really be wondering, why could you just wait? Just make sure that you're a bit patient. If the market breaks above this region to the upside, then you could potentially wait and see if you could get the pullback coming back in within this region. If the market holds to the upside of this area, maybe even some attempts, to break to the downside. Remember, like what we discussed in the previous currency pair, then you could attempt your buying opportunities to potentially end up coming back up, all the way till within this region right here. So make sure that you're patient for that. You could find that the market could also probe within here. If, let's say, the market attempts to go to the upside, comes back in, and can't go back above this region to the upside and really holds within here, then just wait and see if you could get the market coming back in within this area, because you could find that the real buy might actually end up taking off from within here if it does something like this. So it's always good to have some sort of a plan. Make sure that you're patient enough to wait and see, for the setups to really end up working out, or, planning themselves based on the plan that you have. If you don't have a plan, then I guess you need to see us behind the tent. We'll try and see how best we can end up helping you. But one thing you will realize with the New Zealand dollar pairs, even as we're going through them, I hope that you guys are keeping a keen eye on the correlation, because you can see, like, for example, even just going back to the New Zealand dollar pair, you can see the strength coming in on this one, right? So right now, that means that the big boys are on the move on the NZDs. Look at this one as well, similar situation. So you could find that even when the pullbacks do happen, or if the market does break above, the areas that the markets are attempting to break right now, if the pullbacks do end up happening and the holds do end up happening within those areas, then definitely you could potentially end up grabbing a number of NZDs, or even if you don't end up grabbing a number of them, at least you will have the confirmation that the big boys are there. Remember that they're the only ones who can push the market. So if they're there, then that's a good thing. It's a good sign for us guys in terms of the buys. So the next one is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now for this one yesterday, or rather it's a new one. Unfortunately, we didn't have it yesterday. So those are the levels that we will be watching out for. So we will be trying to see what happens. You can see the strength coming in on the NZD, just like we've seen on the others. But don't jump in on the buys now, like we've discussed with the others. Wait and see if you could get the market breaking and holding above here. Remember that there are also some sellers within this region here. So you also really need to watch out for that, because you could find that the market could easily end up bouncing off this region. The sellers yesterday, you can't see how aggressively they came in. This was during the US session at exactly 3. You could find that they could push the market back in within this region, and that's why we have this area here. But let's say if they do attempt to push the market to the downside of this area and they're unsuccessful, and the market comes back in within this region, then ideally you could potentially try and see whether you could get your buys. But if you do get issues within here and you can't clear this area to the upside, so let's say if the sellers do end up reacting and the market comes back in aggressively and the market holds within here, if you do attempt buys within here, just make sure and watch out for this region right here. If we can't clear this region to the upside aggressively and quite fast, then there's bound to be a problem. You could easily end up making that some sort of money management, within this area here, and wait and see. You could find them, maybe the market might end up pushing up slowly to the upside, but ideally we do want to see an aggressive reaction. We want to see that level get taken out real quick. If we don't get that, there could be a bit of caution. For guys who are really good at trading, if you do get a trade in within here and the market breaks to the upside, of course, you could manage your first trade somewhere within here or somewhere within here, but you could wait for the pullback. There's a possibility the market could come back in within this region and you could get another buy, maybe just slightly higher than this region right here to the upside. So also have that at the back of your mind. So do watch out also for the region at the bottom. In case the market does need that much better price, then at least also be ready for it. Make sure that you don't get left by the bus. As the others are making money, make sure that you're also counted in the flock. So the next one is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this one is a new entrant on our watch list. So for this one, we will be watching out for buying opportunities. Similar situation with the rest of the NZD pairs. You can't see the strength coming in, which is good. Correlation is at play. So don't look for the buying opportunities right now. This one also seems like there's some sort of a range that's happening here. You can't see that the sellers have reacted off here before. So it's a horrible idea to look for the buying opportunities right now. Wait and see if you can get the bridge to the upside. Then you could potentially target higher up within there. If not, give these sellers the benefit of doubt. Let's see what they can do. I mean, the ball is back in their court. They can end up reacting. They've done that before. they can't do that again. So if that happens, wait and see if you could get the market somewhere within this region right here. You could potentially get some proper buys. Remember that market structure is very, very important. It's part of the things that, will definitely give you a trading edge. So in as much as we always say buy with buyers, sell with sellers, that's good. Structure is also very key. If you buy at the top of a range, then there's definitely bound to be a problem. And of course, that decreases the chances of your trades working out. Sometimes you will find that it will pay off because the market could break to the upside. But, there's a very slight or very thin line, let me call it that, between proper trading and gambling. When you end up now doing such kind of things, now you're not trading, you're actually gambling. Trading is all about taking calculated risks and also trading, in a methodology, let me call it in a manner that's planned out really well, so that at least you've planned out your risk, you know where you're taking your trades in, as much as you're going to be taking risk, but you've also made sure that you've mitigated that risk by making sure that you're also taking the trades in the right places and in the correct positions to increase your probability. So make sure that you're trading and taking trades at the right areas. So the next set of currency pairs that we're going to be looking at are the AUD pairs. So we're pretty much done with the NZD pairs. So we're going to mix and match the AUDs with everything else on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Now for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region. So at around 9:10, the market was really in some sort of a struggle within here, broke to the upside, didn't really hold, came back in. And you can see that the market did seem like it was holding to the downside for a bit. Then it went back up to the upside. So it was a bit of a choppy mess that was going on within this region right here yesterday. So let's see today if we're going to be lucky and if we can get something that's a bit more clearer than what the charts were offering yesterday. So you can see that right now there's some sort of a choppy, messy range upward channel that's going on within this region right here. But ideally, you don't really want to be looking for this buying opportunities there. Let's wait and see if we can get the market coming back in within here. If we do get that, we could look for the buying opportunities there. Wait for the breach to the upside. We're going to be looking for buys here so that you don't also end up getting caught out on some sort of breakout trades. Where the market breaks to the upside in the first candle and you're in. That's exactly how 95% of the traders in this industry get slaughtered. So make sure that you don't join them. Wait and see if you can get a hold before you look for the buys, but also look out for this region right here. The reason why we have this area is because if you end up going to the bigger time frame, when the market broke to the upside of this region, there's a possibility you could find the market coming back in for some sort of a retest here. It's not a must, but there's a possibility you could do that. So also have that option open. And you could find that all the people who are attempting buys when the market is going up, the market might need to end up coming down. Maybe even stop out some buyers who just blindly put pending orders within this region here. Come down, everyone starts to look for sales. As they're chasing sales, they won't see the buy coming in. And remember, that's how the industry works. That's how people get slaughtered. So make sure that you don't join them. So moving on into the next one. This is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to also see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when you're looking at the charts, the market was high up within this area. I did point out, don't really look for your buys high up within here. We do need some sort of a pullback. And you clearly can see that the sellers did react. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market holding within here, but you can see that the market came back in within this region. Remember in the morning, this one is similar to the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen in that yesterday morning, remember I had pointed out that the market went up high. It was somewhere around here when we're looking at it. I did point out that on the 1 hour time frame, you could easily find the market coming back in within this region right here. And look at that. What do you know? The market just came back in within this region, bounced off that area. But in as much as, let's say, for example, you didn't get the trading opportunities within here, because the markets did really get off to a really slow start. It's only up until the Asian session that the market is on the move. But it's also understandable, considering that this is an AUD pair. It's definitely a currency pair that would be very active, or more active rather, during the Asian session. So it's not uncommon. But don't chase the buying opportunities now. If you did miss out on the buys, when the market was down here, it's okay. There'll always be another opportunity. Right now, the market is attempting to break to the upside. If you look for buys now, we're more or less within some sort of a minus SNR within this region here. Just wait and see if you could get the market coming back in within this area. Hopefully, we do get some sort of a retest, maybe even attempting to test these levels here. Get the market coming to the upside and the hold, you could attempt your buy. So you just need to wait for something more or less, something like that, and you will be fine. If that doesn't happen, wait and see if you could get the market coming back in within here, especially if the market breaks to the downside, holds within here, then just wait and see what could happen maybe if the market comes back in within here. But remember that red SNR, that's going to be the last day where we're going to be trying to see whether we can get our buying opportunities. So the next one is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, new entrant on our watch list. Also, you can see some sort of correlation that's happening amongst the AUD pairs. I'm sure if you have a keen eye, you've already seen that by now. Basically, you can see that the AUDs are on the move as well. Almost something similar to the NZDs. So this one is moving to the upside. Don't look for the buys now. Just wait for the pullback. Let's see what happens with these sellers. If the market can break to the upside and hold above, could look for more buying opportunities, but you will need to watch out for somewhere within this region here. But let's give these sellers in this region the benefit of doubt. If the market does react to the downside, then we will possibly be waiting to see whether we can get a retest, of this region right here. And we could find a good buying opportunity within that area. If not, the market comes in a bit deeper in terms of the pullback, then we will be waiting for that region right there. And that's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our buying opportunities. Also, remember to watch out for the times. Like we always point out, 10, 3, and 4:30. You could find some good trading opportunities at that point in time. So like right now, just looking at the charts, especially these last two AUDs that we've looked at, right now we're approaching 10, which is the London market open. The market is within some sort of a seller's region. There is a probability and a possibility that the markets could react off this area during the London session. And you could find that maybe during the London session, like for this one, if we can't break to the upside, the London big boys might literally push the market back in within here. You could find that the market is back in within here, maybe at around 3, 4:30. And you could find that that's when the buying opportunity does literally end up taking place. So just be on the lookout, but patience, like I keep on reminding you guys, patience is extremely key when it comes to trading. If you're impatient in terms of, you're impatient to make money, but what you won't realize is that you're actually impatient to give, you're impatient to give your money away. That's how trading works. So be very, very patient. Make sure that you're waiting for the trades at the right places. So do watch out for this one. Watch out for those areas. Also remember the red SNR at the bottom right there in case the market comes in for a deep pullback. There's a possibility price can come back in there. We've seen that on the charts, and I'm sure for the guys who'll be trading for, some time, even just coming in for these daily analysis sessions, even if it's just this week or last week, you've definitely seen the markets, pulling back in, giving deep pullbacks. So make sure that you also do have that at the back of your mind. The market can come back in within there. Just be ready for it. So that's pretty much it for the AUD pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the Great British Pound pairs. Mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, currency pair that we also did have yesterday, it was also good to see, I think it was George, if my memory serves me right, who got the buying opportunity somewhere within here to go up, which is good. Definitely hit TP. The market did actually spike just above that region right there. So this one was a good trade. So shout out to you, George, once again. But you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere around here at around 9, 9:30, 10. Not a good area to look for your buys. Definitely can't see. Just a bit of patience. The market came back in within here. But if you got the buys there, managed there, or maybe somewhere within here during the US session like George, then definitely good buying opportunity. Nice and easy in and out. So for this one, for today, we're going to be watching out for these three regions right here. So we've adjusted the areas slightly just to accommodate the choppy mess that's going on within this region right here. You can see how choppy and how messy things are within here. If you see such kind of things happening, it means that there's also a fight, a real fight that's going on, between the buyers and the sellers. But ideally, our bias is to the upside. So let's wait and see what happens within here. You can definitely see that the sellers have started to slow down. And if you look at how the buyers have come in, if you look at this side versus this side, what we talk about relativity, definitely can't see some sort of a slowdown. Let's see if the sellers can still slow down coming down. Don't really look for the buys right now because there is a minor sellers area within here. I mean, even if you do end up hitting buys here and your stop loss is all the way down here, that's okay. But remember that when it comes to trading, it's also a game of risk to reward. So even if you do hit the buys somewhere within here, then you really want to hide your stop loss all the way down here. Remember that the problem area at the top still remains. That risk to reward 1:0.64, not really the best. So try and get your trade as close as possible within here. And you can see how the risk to reward does actually end up going up higher. So even if you're really going to be hiding your stops there, by just making sure that you're getting your trades at much better areas, increases, the probabilities of your risk to rewards going up, which is good because remember that trading is a game of probability. So just wait and see. Of course, in case the market doesn't pull back in within there, then not every trading opportunity is a trading opportunity for you to take. It's like even for the guys who drive, not every opportunity you get is an opportunity for you to overtake. There are sometimes you can't see the opportunity, but you choose to let it slide. Same thing even on the charts. If you can be that disciplined, just look at the trade. If the opportunity doesn't look good, even if the market continues to move to the upside, the fact that it couldn't come back in within a proper area where you could get a proper risk to reward, sometimes it's okay to let such type of opportunities slide. Maybe when the market breaks above here to the upside, and let's say you get some sort of a pullback and a hold within here, you might even get a better risk to reward high up here on this trade going up than you possibly could with this trade right here. So also figuring out which are the best opportunities to take, which ones to let slide, which ones to take is also part of your, should be part of your trading plan and also part of your discipline as a trader. So make sure that you also do work on that, or what we call your trading edge. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. Clearly can't see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within here. At around 9:10, the market broke to the upside. Wanted to see that. The sellers came back in, went to the upside. Can't see that there was some sort of a pullback, although you did need to possibly read this one on a smaller time frame, maybe on the 3-minute or on the 1 minute to see what was happening. But you can see that there was a pullback coming back in within there. Caused a bit of a tricky entry for amateurs, but for professionals, very good entry going up, coming up within there before the sellers came back in. And you can see that the market came back in all the way till within this region right here, which was an area that we had. And you can imagine that at one point in time, price was high up within there. So this one also goes to serve as a good example of there's no price that's too far for the Forex market. So just always make sure that you do keep an open mind. So for this one for today, we're still going to be watching out for buys. A bit of a choppy mess that's going on within here. So we've adjusted to accommodate that. Maybe some sort of a range. Don't look for yourselves. For your buying opportunities within here. Let's see if we can get a breach to the upside. If we can't, and the market does end up coming back in, then ideally we still do have this region right here, or somewhere, some regions within here where you could find the market coming back in, giving a really good buy, but you still need to watch out for this region right here, and also this region at the top, somewhere within this area right here. So do watch out for that. Remember the red SNR at the bottom, in case the market breaks that to the downside. Unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, new entrant on our watch list, we will be watching out to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. Good to see that the buyers are already active during the Asian session and the Frankfurt session, but we're within some sort of a seller's region. Let's wait for the confirmation, get a breach and a hold to the upside. Let's see what the sellers can do. You can see that they reacted off this region aggressively yesterday. They can't do that again. So just make sure that you watch out. Let's see what they can do. The ball is back in their court. If they can't end up reacting and we get a hold and maybe some attempts to break to the downside of this region and they're unsuccessful, then ideally we could possibly end up looking for those buying opportunities if we get something like that. So just watch out for that. But in case the market breaks to the downside and holds beneath here, then just keep your eyes locked on somewhere within this region. But there's also a minor SNR somewhere within here where you could technically find the market possibly coming to bounce off. But this one is more a professional entry. We're still new at trading. This type of entry might give you some sort of issues, but it's always okay to attempt. You can attempt, but ideally just keep an eye out for those three areas right there. So moving on into the next one and the last Great British Pound pair. This is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. Also a new entrant on our watch list. So we will be watching out to see whether we can get some buying opportunities within these three regions right here. Right now, the market seems to be stuck between these two areas. Let's wait and see if we can get the market coming back in as close as possible within here for us to attempt the buys. If not, then I guess we'll just have to let it slide. Because of course you can look for buying opportunities within here, but it still would be safe to have your stops within here. And you see, like I was pointing out, your risk to reward might not really be that great. You might let it slide unless you go down to the smaller time frame and read the story, maybe have stops within here, but you also run the risk of being stopped out, by whipsaws that could easily happen, as the price is looking for regions within these areas right here. So for this one, a bit of a tricky situation, but let's wait and see. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that the market could come back in maybe somewhat till within this region right here. So hopefully you've taken note of that, and that's pretty much it for the GBP pairs. So we'll move on to the last set of currency pairs, which are the Euro pairs. Mix and match that up with everything on the sell side. So the first one is the Euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one, we are going to be looking to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So watch out for these three regions right here. You can see that the market is attempting to lift itself off this area right here to the upside. Let's see what the mini sellers somewhere within this region have to say. You can see that they've already struggled coming down. The buyers are still adamant. Let's see, hopefully on the next attempt, if they can really struggle to bring the market as close as possible within here, we could look for the buying opportunities to move up. So just make sure that you're watching out for this region as well. If you get the buys here coming up, if you do get a struggle within here, so that you don't get into this sort of squeeze that might end up happening within here. If you can't take out this region to the upside, just make sure that you're ready to do some money management within that area. So do watch out for that. In case these sellers react, push the market to the downside, we do get a hold. We can't get the market coming back above this region quite aggressively and a hold to the upside. Just make sure that you're watching out for this region at the bottom right there, which is going to be the last area where we will be looking for those last ditch buying opportunities. So the next one is the Euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a new entrant on our watch list. So we will be watching out to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. You can see that the market is in some sort of a range. If you do look at the market structure between these two regions, it's been in a range for the last 2 days. So looking for buys within here right now, not a good idea. Let's wait and see if we can get a nice strong breach to the upside, pull back and a hold, maybe even an attempt to break to the downside, which is unsuccessful. You can see that yesterday the market broke to the upside, seemed to have held to the upside, but the attempt that was made to break to the downside, you can imagine all the guys who are hitting buys within here. It doesn't matter where you put your stop loss. Even if you hit it all the way down here, you bought at the top of the range and you're definitely going to pay the ultimate price. So you can see that the market spiked down, came back in within here. Unfortunately, it's not something that we're watching out for, but you can generally see that the buys, they're generally working from the bottom of the range. So let's just be patient, give the sellers the benefit of doubt. Let's see what happens. In case this price is not good enough and the market even needs a better price than this, where it did end up getting to yesterday, there's a probability you could find the market back in within here, maybe during the US session. And that could give you the buying opportunity that you're watching out for. So look out for that. But remember the red SNR at the bottom, that's going to be the last area where we will be trying to look for those last ditch buying opportunities. So the next one is the Euro against the US dollar. Now for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region, just breaking to the downside, pulled back in within here during the London session. You can see that the market came down, and once again during the US session, came back in within here. In fact, it came back twice, during the US session, came down, came back in again, gave another attempt, but you can see that the market got into some sort of a range within this region right here. So for this one for today, we're going to be going the other way. So we're not really going to be looking for selling opportunities. We will be looking for buys. So let's wait and see if we can get the market pulling back in within this region right here. Could find that these sellers who did give issues yesterday, they could give issues. We could find the market coming back in within that region there. So we will be watching out to see what happens there. In case that happens, in case they have nothing to say and the buyers really push the market to the upside and we get a hold above here, then you could ideally look for your buying opportunities here, but just make sure that you're really watching out for this region here. You can see that the sellers did push the market coming down quite aggressively off that area. So this could be your next problem area where you could manage your trade. Or maybe if the market does break to the upside, if you're looking for those more conservative entries, then you could potentially try and see whether you could get a buying opportunity within that region to move or continue to move to the upside. So watch out for that. Watch out for this region right here. Really keep your fingers crossed that the market does come back in within here. The best buy still does seem to be somewhere within this region right here, just going by the structure. And of course, if you get the buy here, and as much as you could target somewhere within here, definitely you can also end up placing your take profits, somewhere within this region, manage within here. So if it comes down here, at least we'll have more room to play in terms of more pips to the upside. So let's just watch out and see what happens. But like I keep on pointing out, we have our plans, but the markets also do have their own plans. So we'll just have to go by what the markets do end up giving us or showing us. So last but not least, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were watching out to see whether we could have gotten some sell. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was just coming down. So at around 9, 10, you can see that the price was here. I did point out caution in terms of looking for the sells. When the market goes down within this region here, the market pulled back in. Although a bit of a choppy mess, but you can see that there were some pullbacks that came back in within here, but the market just couldn't break free of this region right here. It seems like the buyers were really camping ground, within that area there. So for this one for today, we're going to be watching out for buying opportunities. Let's hope that we'll get some good buys on this one. Unfortunately, the sales yesterday were not really performing that great. Apart from this one at around 3, the market came back in within there to calm down, but could have been a bit tricky in terms of grabbing that trade. Let's hope that today we'll get some clear opportunity on this one. So the market is moving to the upside, which is good. Could come back in within here. Really keep your eyes out to see what happens within here, maybe during the London session. We could potentially find the market either setting itself up to move. So you could find that the market could attempt to come back in, maybe attempt to tap this region. Those bars might react. The market might push to the upside, hold within here. So you could find that it could set itself up during the London session, maybe do something like this. Then maybe during the US session, it could be somewhere within here at around 3, 4, just to get ready for the buying opportunity after it's done all of this during the London session. So that's what I mean when I talk about maybe the market could set itself up, get ready for, the main move during the US session. So just keep an eye out for that. But you also could find that the market could push to the downside, maybe during the London session, and maybe during the US session, you could find it somewhere within here, maybe at around 3, 4:30, and you could find that that's when the market could push to the upside. So just keep your eyes out for something like that, but watch out for the region at the top. In case the sellers do end up reacting off there, just make sure that you're ready for it in terms of managing your buy. So that's pretty much it for all the currency pairs. Quite a handful of them. We're actually watching out for about 16 currency pairs today. And of course, if you end up adding the indices, so we do have about 20 opportunities that we're watching out for. Remember that this is like some sort of a menu when you go to a restaurant. These are the options that us guys are showing you what you should be looking out for. Of course, even what us guys are looking out for. But it doesn't mean that you jump in on all of them. And that's the reason why I'm saying it's like a restaurant. You go, you get a menu. You can't definitely ask for a menu and then order everything on the menu. That doesn't make sense. So you definitely have to pick out the ones that end up looking good to your liking. And I know that most of you do have a trading plan. Watch out for which ones do actually end up aligning with what you have. You can't take all of them. Even in terms of risk, that would not be very smart of you to actually end up doing that. But ideally, we've shown you the various options, what's there. So we're going to move on to the commodities and the indices. So there's not really much change in terms of them being on the buy side and the sell side. It's more or less the same as yesterday. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday we were watching out for buys, and you can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within here, broke to the upside. Remember, I pointed out that you didn't need to wait to see how the breach was going to happen on the pullback. Wait and see what happens. Unfortunately, you can't see that there was no hold within here. That's the reason why it's not always a very smart idea in terms of just placing pending orders, when the market comes back in within here, pending order there, stop loss here. Always try and see whether you can read the pullback coming in. So you can see that the market came back in during the London session. It was only during the US session that the market gave a number of buying opportunities to the upside. So for this one, moving into today, the levels are the same. The market has not really gone far and beyond the areas that we had pointed out yesterday. So the levels are still in play. So we will be watching out for buying opportunities somewhere within here. The best buy right now, just looking at the structure and what the story is telling us, definitely lies somewhere within this region right here. So let's wait and see if we can get the market coming back in, or really struggling to come back in within here. If you look for the buys within here, could have stops somewhere within this region right here. If you really want to be a bit more conservative, you could have them here. But remember that if you end up having them too wide, then also your risk to reward also ends up getting a bit messed or a bit off. So, but the best buying opportunity is definitely here, so that when the market comes back in within this region, ideally you should be getting ready to come out of your trade. If the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, then just make sure that you stop looking for your buying opportunities. Wait and see. If the market comes back to the upside, then you could look for your buys. If not, and we do get confirmation that the market is holding to the downside, then I guess at that point in time, you could start to look for your selling opportunities. But also watch out for this region. The reason why we have it, in as much as the range is holding here, sometimes the market sometimes needs a better price. In case it needs a better price, then ideally just keep your eyes out for this region right here. And that's the reason why we have that somewhere within that region there. So the next one is the Dow Jones, or the US 30. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can't see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within here. And you can see how slow the market was moving back in within this region. Of course, we're expecting to possibly see if we could have gotten the market coming back in within there, but you can see how slow the buyers came up. And these small sellers who are sitting within this region right here actually did push them back and even took them further than where they had started off from, or even somewhere within this region right here. So when the market broke to the downside on the pullback, unfortunately, not really much in terms of what we could read. So this one, not really the clearest of opportunities yesterday, but let's see today what does end up happening. So you can see that the market has formed or started to form some sort of range. So we've adjusted the levels to make sure that we've incorporated that. So watch out for those two areas right there. You definitely want to be getting your selling opportunities as close as possible, within that region there. So if we do get the sells there, and of course the buyers do come in slow, the sellers do start to show some sort of aggression within there, you could look for your sells, come down with the market, maybe till somewhere within this region right here. Make sure that you do some good money management there. It's not a guarantee that the market could break beneath this region to the downside, but if it does, and you've managed your trade, and even if you do keep your take profits open, and let the market run as far as it could, then ideally you could end up banking in some more money. But make sure that you do some money management within that area there. If the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, and let's say we can't get the market coming back in within here, just wait and see if you can get the confirmation. If you get that confirmation and the market does literally hold to the downside, even after attempts to break to the upside, then you could potentially try and see whether you could get your selling opportunities at that point in time. But also watch out for this region right here. The reason why we have this is because in as much as you can see that we're in some sort of a range, the seller who pushed the market into this range that we're currently in right now is somewhere sitting within this region right here. And you could find that if these prices are not good enough within this region right here, there's a possibility the market could go a bit higher, trying to look for those prices to possibly end up attempting to do what it did. This was on Tuesday. So, the markets always repeat themselves. So you always need to make sure that you're always ready and watching out for that, because previous levels where the markets have reacted off from, there's always a high probability and a possibility that the market could do that again. So moving on into the next one, which is silver. Now for silver, yesterday the bus was to try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities. You clearly can't see the three areas that I had pointed out, but the market decided to end up being in some sort of a choppy mess within this region right here, which was a bit difficult to end up decoding or getting into some trades. But you can't see that the sellers were really pushing hard. The buyers at some point were also pushing back. The sellers had a field day during the US session, but also the buyers were still able to push them back in. So there's a bit of a choppy mess and a struggle that's going on within here. So we will be trying to see if we can't get the buyers maybe pushing the market back in, somewhere as close as possible within this region. But there are also quite a number of minor SNRs that come into play, because you can't see that the market seems like it's in some sort of a range, also in some sort of a downward channel to some extent coming down, but it's in a mess. But ideally, the best area, the clearest area where you can get some good selling opportunities will definitely be at the top. somewhere as close as possible within here, because visually, when you end up looking at this one, you can generally see that the sellers are sitting somewhere within here. You could bank on taking some sells within here, but these are very small sellers. And in any case, if you do hit sells here, you're taking the sells so close to the buyer's region. Like you don't really have much room for you to actually play. Like you could literally end up taking a trade and it reacts on you immediately. You take the sell and immediately the buyers have taken you out. You don't really want to be taking yourselves too close within here. So in such a situation, you want to try and get yourselves far up as possible or away from the opposite party. So at least in case the market gives you issues on the way down, you can actually end up scratching the trade at a profit rather than you taking the sells here, banking on these sellers and the market reacts. Even if you hide your stop losses here, you might literally end up needing to hold on to that loss for an extended period of time, maybe before the sellers do end up pushing the market to the downside. And of course, that's also going to call for a lot of prayer, because now at that point in time, it will take the hand of God more than anything to make that trade work. You know, and sometimes we joke and we say, you know, you start off the day as a trader, you come, you're excited about trading and about the day. You come take one trade, and the rest of the day, instead of trading, you turn into an intercessor. So you're just going to be praying the whole day that that trade just ends up working out. And you're reminding God of, you know, what He said, that He's a faithful God and everything. So just make sure that you don't end up putting yourself, you know, in such kind of situations. If you're trading, mean to trade. There's nothing wrong with praying. I also pray, but if you mean to pray and it's time for prayer, go pray. But don't pray because you got yourself in a funny looking situation that you should have not gotten yourself into in the first place. So for this one, this is gold. Now, for gold yesterday, we're watching out to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, the market was somewhere within this region at around 9:10. And you can see that during the London session, there were a number of attempts to push the market to the downside. It did move to the downside, then the market pulled back in. And if you look at the times, at around 4:30, 4:30, the market came back in within here for now the monster sell to push to the downside. And I think from the screenshots we saw, I think Christine, who got a really good trade, if my memory serves me right, coming down, which was really good. And shout out to you for that as well. So for this one, for today, the bias is still to look for sells for as long as we're holding beneath this red SNR. And of course, this goes out to all the other indices and commodities as well. For as long as price is holding below the red SNR, we should be looking for sells. If it's above, then we should be looking for buys. This one, you can see that the market is getting into some sort of a range. Definitely lots of guys are chasing sells now. They're definitely getting stuck, you know, within this region right here. So you can bank in on looking for sells here, but maybe that would have to be on a smaller time frame, because you can see that the market is in some sort of a range within here. But if you're really looking at the bigger picture of what's happening, and if you want to get into some much safer trades, it's better for you to look out for this region right here as opposed to, you know, focusing on this region right here. Because if you do end up even going up a higher time frame, maybe even to the 1 hour time frame, what you will end up seeing is that the market broke this region to the downside quite aggressively. This is an area of interest for most big boys. So you would find that you could hit your sells here. If you put your stops anywhere within this region here, you could ideally end up getting stopped out before the market moves, and you could find some sort of a spike maybe coming in within there. And ideally, this is the best area for you to look for the trade, you know, based on the fact that the move is also visible on the bigger time frame. So watch out for that region there. That's the reason why we have that. And of course, if the market comes down, ideally that will give you more pips to the downside, which is ideally what you want. So do watch out for that. Watch out for this region at the top right here. The reason why we have that, you can definitely see the seller who pushed the market into this range that we're in is definitely sitting within this region. Maybe if they are needed and the market does come back in within this region, they could definitely do what they did yesterday. So just make sure that you also do watch out for that area. If the market breaks to the upside of that region and holds above it, then at that point in time, we could start to look for buying opportunities confidently. Remember that you still can look for buys now, but just make sure that you're not too confident about those buying opportunities, because they could easily end up failing on you at any given point in time. The sellers are still strongly in control, and you can see that right here. So make sure that you have that in mind. So I guess that's pretty much it for everything. So for the guys who came in late, feel free to take note of that. But of course, remember that you also can end up getting the recordings on our social media platforms. So of course on YouTube, Facebook, and also on X. You can definitely watch and rewatch that as many times as possible. Also get accustomed to how we end up analyzing the charts. And of course, a lot of things will definitely make sense as we continue moving along. So before I look at the Q&A, let me make one announcement. I know we've been talking about a new program that we're coming up with that is going to be supplementary to the masterclass. And of course, the masterclass offer is still running. We still have about a day, today and tomorrow, for the guys who want to jump in on that. So we have this Afriforex Amplified program, or the AMP, which is a new program that we've come up with. It's more or less like some sort of a bridging course between the masterclass and going up all the way till the one-on-one. So for the guys who've done the one-on-one, you don't really need to come for this one. But I mean, if you do want to, you still can. But ideally, it's not really for you. This one is more to bring guys who are in the masterclass who've not done the one-on-one or who are looking to do the one-on-one. This is another step that we've brought in between, because ideally, many guys were saying that it was a big step jumping in from the masterclass all the way to the one-on-one. Some guys were saying it's too expensive and whatever. And of course, we listen to the things that you guys tell us. And of course, just coming up with this program proves to show that we do actually listen to what you guys tell us. So this program is a 4-week program whereby it's like some sort of a small class. Ideally, it's about just 4 people. It's not too much, where we actually sit down every day, Monday to Friday, for about an hour and a half or two during the London market open, from around maybe 10:30 to around 12. We talk about a couple of issues or a couple of things. We show you a number of things. I know most of you came in for the intermediate sessions when we were having the intermediates, and a lot of you guys actually did end up getting a lot of value from the intermediates. And that's the feedback that we got from you guys. And you can imagine the intermediates were basically just 3 sessions, and we discussed, I think, about 19 or 20 topics. We didn't really go in depth on quite a number of them. We're just touching, and yet quite a number of guys did end up giving us good feedback on them. So you can imagine now sitting down with us for about 20 lessons or thereabout in a month, Monday to Friday, maybe about an hour and a half or two during the London session open. We look at practical examples of trades. We discuss trades. If there are trades, we take them together. We explain the rationale of why we're taking those trades for 4 weeks. And of course, ideally, that will also end up priming you to actually end up getting into the one-on-one, which is, now ideally the top, the top program that us guys do actually end up giving. So for 4 weeks, we're going to be having this. So for this one, it's ideally going to be going for 50,000, but we've decided to start off with about 35. So what we're going to do is there's a waiting list that we want to create. So for all the guys who are interested, especially to start off in July and August, you can definitely end up signing up. We'll give you more details. Of course, for the guys who end up signing up, we'll look at the waiting list. Then we'll see if it's viable to start in July or August. I know it might be a bit of short in terms of giving you guys the notice, but ideally it's something that we were told you that was coming. We've given a couple of details in terms of the things that you should be expecting. And of course, this is not everything. This is just a brief overview of what's there, but ideally we'll be doing a review of the masterclass. There's some things that were not very clear there. Maybe for some guys, we can do a bit of that or a lot of that. We'll be doing pair selection. How do we end up selecting the currency pairs that we're discussing here? And how do you end up knowing which ones are good and which ones are not? So we will be doing pair selection. We will be doing correlation. Of course, in line with that, we'll be showing you how to do the fundamentals properly. We'll be showing you how to end up coming up with the market structure and the levels that we end up coming up with, how to end up reading the pullbacks. We always talk about pullbacks. How do you end up reading those pullbacks properly? How do you end up getting entries based on the pullbacks that you've read? Because entries is the main thing that everyone is watching out for. Everyone wants to know how to enter. So we'll get into that and do practical and many practical examples of that, so that by the end of the 4 weeks, you will end up having a very good idea of exactly how you should be selecting pairs, how you should be reading the pullbacks, and exactly how you should be looking for your entries. And of course, entries go in line with stop losses, take profits, money management. How do you end up managing your trades when the market gets to problem areas? We'll be showing you exactly how to do that. What time frames should you be trading? Whether you want to become a swing trader or whether you want to end up doing day trading. You know, how do you end up going about it in terms of the time frames? How do you set your goals? How do you set your risks? You know, what's the psychology that's involved in trading, and how do you go about it? And the good thing about it is, by the time you're coming for this program, you're already experienced, which means that most of the things that we're going to be discussing are not going to be theoretical things. These are going to be practical things that you've also experienced as a trader on the charts, you know. And of course, we'll end up putting everything together and end up, you know, looking to see, you know, getting as many trades as possible as we continue moving along. So make sure that you do end up signing up for this. There should be a link that should be on the chat box for this, but you also can't find this information. If you do end up going to our site, you definitely can end up finding this information. So in the Academy section, if you go to www.afriforex.com, on the Academy section, you will find all our courses. So we have added the Amplified program, the AMP, and of course the one-on-one. We're also going to be revamping that. So for the guys at that level, we're also going to be taking care of you guys. So there's also something that's coming up for this one as well. But for now, this one is a new one. Feel free to enroll. Let's start putting guys in a waiting list. Let's see if we can actually end up taking off with this program. And I know that definitely this program will take you to the next level. Make sure that if anything is not clear, also feel free to reach out to us, and us guys will see how best we can end up helping you. So let me look at the Q&A real quick. And of course, remember, the masterclass deal still running. We do have about a day or so before that ends up ending. So looking at the Q&A, I see Caroline Chage asking, when is it starting? I think you're talking about the new program. Let's first put guys in a waiting list. Then we'll see what we can end up doing with that. So at least the waiting list is now open. So based on that, we'll end up giving you details. Or at least the guys who end up signing up will give you the details. So I see Daniela, good to see you. And of course, good to see your screenshot as well. You're saying, and you shall bless the work of resume hands. All right. So I think maybe in line with some of the comments that maybe I did end up putting here, maybe as we're moving along, but really good to see you here as well. So I guess that's pretty much it. Hope to see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. in the morning for the daily analysis session. Hopefully you do end up having a good day on the charts, and of course in everything else that you're doing. Stay safe. If you do get some good trades, feel free to send them in to us. Us guys would be more than happy to see what you guys are up to on the charts. I see a quick one from Valentine Gishuki. You're saying kindly go back to the daily flow chart. I haven't had a chance to screenshot. All right, so I think you're talking about the watch list, if I'm not wrong. So this is it. So I hope that sorts you out, Valentine Gishuki, but also good to see you. So hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. in the morning. And as always, may the peeps be with you. If anything is not clear, feel free to check out our social media to just see the rebroadcast of this session. So happy trading, guys. And bye for now. God bless.